I work at an organization in Ireland, Europe, which provides service for children with any kind of disabilities from their cradle to grave, which means from their first day of when they're born with a disability, they contact our organization and we cater to them till the end stage of their life. And we have different programs, different kind of services, different kind of multidisciplinary services, vocational training, education, leisure, and they have been working in this industry or this sector for past 60, 70 years, so a wealth of knowledge has been collected. What I'm here today is to share my experiences and knowledge, what I have learned, how it is managed, how disability is managed in various countries. I have a special liking to visit different countries and look at the healthcare models, because one model does not fit everybody. So I worked in India, I worked in Singapore, I worked in China, I worked in Ireland, I have worked in a lot of countries. And I have learned and understood and tried to understand how healthcare is provided across the globe. And it does change from country to country. It changes from health boards to health boards, and it changes from how much money at the end of the day you have to provide this kind of services. And the country, or Ireland where I work, healthcare is completely free, so it's funded by government, and everything that we do is paid for the government, by the government, so parents don't have to pay any money towards services, which is a very different model than in India, which is more so you have to pay for all the services. So whenever I speak at the conferences, parents sometimes say that we can't replicate what is there in the elsewhere. But my point is, why don't we see what is there, and we can only replicate and take what is relevant and what works for us. And at least we'll know how it is done in other countries or other parts of the world. So I just gave you, I also try to do different things. I'm an app developer. I work for a company in Dublin, developing apps for speech and language. When I was looking at apps, there were no apps in India which caters to Indian or Hindi. So I was the first person who thought that I'll develop an app which works on vocabulary development for children with speech and language problem, and we developed the first app in Hindi. The app is also there in a lot of other languages like UK English, US English, Norwegian, Portuguese, but there was no app in the Indian market, and that was an attempt that I wanted to make. I have close association with India, and even though I stay in Ireland, I try to come as frequently as I can, because I think sharing my knowledge and expertise is what I like to do. So I work with Indian Army, I work with different centers, organizations right across different parts of India. And I'm quite keen to develop this area in Asia Pacific, where I think it's it's lacking, or their services are less. Okay. So my needs aren't special. How my needs are met might be different, but they are the same needs as anyone else. What I mean to say here is, we in India have kind of a medical model, right? So the disability is with the child. So we try to look for solutions, going to doctors, going to different professionals, a lot of places, and I hope the picture is changing in India, and it is moving more towards a social inclusion model. So if a child has a disability and he can't access something, it is not the child's fault, it is the system fault that we haven't geared or made the systems which should be adapting or be helping our children with special needs access those services. So just to share an example, the place where I work, the whole town is adapted for disability. The shopkeepers, the train station, the banks, the guards, every different aspect of society are sensitized. They are trained. They understand what is disability. If they find somebody with disability, they know where to contact. If somebody by chance escapes, they know where to bring that person back to. So these are all the things which are already geared towards that kind of setup, that everybody is included. So when I do my speech therapy training, I don't only train parents. Of course, parents are most important, but I train grandparents, I train bus drivers, I train shopkeepers, I train ayahs, I train grandparents, anybody, friends, siblings. I feel that as long as everybody is not on the same platform, We can't really provide that kind of service that we are looking to provide. And I think this is the biggest takeaway that I've learned, that in West, everybody is included, they understand their responsibility, they come for training, they get trained, and then they go back and implement that training with their children. So that's why you see a lot more success happening in those countries. I want you to think about some critical questions. So what I'm going to talk today about is disability and aging. Okay, are we all aging? Yes. Are our children with disability aging as well? Yes. So this, and we also have typically developing children. Are they aging? Yes. So why should it be any different when it comes to provide services for children who have disability? I want you to think of some critical questions. Is there an inequality in disability services across the globe? Right? Are services, family caregivers adequately prepared? See, what would make our lives easier if we are prepared, if we know what to do, if we know how to do? If you are not trained, if you don't know what to do, we are all in a limbo land, as we say. We don't know what will happen. Pata nahi aage kya hoga, kaise karna hai. We don't know all those things, and those are big questions in front of us. Is the society being fair for all the citizens? You know, it's a big question we need to think about. Is the society being fair? Is it inclusive? We talk very loosely of the term inclusive. And there are a lot of schools which say we are providing inclusive education, but I almost get phone call every day where the child is kicked out of the school because he cannot fall into the norms that they want their children to fall into. And I always say there is a Right to Education Act in India, as far as I can remember. You have a right to study and send your child to the school, and if somebody is kicking him out, get that in writing and get your legal support. A lot of parents don't even know that or don't want to go that route. Whereas I would say, know your rights, know your law, and use it. Do people with disabilities and older people have similar health, housing, social, and transport needs? We are all going to get old, right? We're going to have difficulties with mobility, we're going to have healthcare needs, we're going to have housing needs, we're going to have a lot of other needs which they also have. But if you have a child with disability who is aging, it complicates the process, and we need to understand this. Age-friendly society will also be disabled-friendly society. So if we have a society which is friendly towards our aging population, then only they'll be friendly towards disabled population as well. Otherwise, there's a huge gap in that. So why do we need to address this question? Why do we need to address managing aging and disability? The longer we live, we are all living longer. Yeah, our life expectancy has gone up. Medical treatments have improved. Our own health, we are getting more conscious about our health. So similarly, life expectancy of children with disability is also going up. So you need to be prepared to care for them a bit more longer than we were caring for them a few years back. Okay? There are new laws on privacy and more emphasis on consent. So a lot of countries are talking about consent. We make all the decisions for a child or an adult or an adolescent with disability. What will you eat? Where will you go? Okay, do you want to go to this restaurant, that restaurant? We don't give them the consent. They are not consenting. We are taking forceful consent from them in a way, or we are consenting for them. These laws are getting more and more stricter. Place where I work, if a person does not want to see somebody, if he has not given the consent to be seen by a doctor, the doctor can't see the person because there's no consent given by the person with disability. Social values have evolved. People are becoming more socially aware. Why should I do this? I have a role to play. People want say over decisions that affect their quality of life. See, we are making decisions for them, but they may not be happy. So when we are putting somebody in a residential facility, we ask the adolescent or an adult with disability, do you want to go to this particular house? Would you be happy with this group of people? If they say no, then it's my job or my organization's job to find an alternative placement for them, because that's where the services are going to be centered on the client, not focused on us. If you manage disability well, it will prevent the long-term costs that you're going to incur. And I think in the morning, Dr. Bhavani were talking about a lot of medical costs that increases. So if we could manage their health and their disability better, we are going to save on a lot of complex medical conditions that evolve because of the Down syndrome condition that can be prevented or the cost can be minimized. I always think this. Somebody asked me one day, why should you put money into this sector, right? We all look at profit and loss. I put 100 rupees, I need to get 200 rupees, then it's a profit-making sector. And that's where the whole money or industries or everybody runs behind. And I always tell this to the parents, we all are professionals in our life, right? So if we have a child with disability, and if that child is not being taken care of well, are we giving our 100%? We are not, because we're constantly thinking about our child, what's going to happen to my child, what services are they getting. But if your child is supported well, you are able to give your potential, 100% potential back to the society that needs it. And that's why I always say that if you are able to, if your children are taken well care of, you as a professional can give more professionally back to your society, and that's how the circle of things move around. So disability can occur at any age, it can occur with any race, it can happen with young people, it can happen to men, women, it can be acquired, it can happen at birth, it can happen early in life, and it can happen late in life. It could have a predictable path, and it could also have an unpredictable path. So what I'm talking about, disability in general, not just Down syndrome, because Down syndrome is by birth, but in a country like India or any other country, there are huge chances that we can suffer disability at any point of our life. Falls, accidents, strokes, all these big category can happen and can make us disabled at some point of our life, requiring services which are kind of non-existent. It's a dynamic condition, and significant challenges it can pose, or it can have very simple, less challenges. The graph there shows how the average life has increased after medical interventions have come into place. So people with learning disabilities, their average lifespan, according to the survey in the UK, is 67.5 years. So they are living for 67.5 years. People with moderate learning disabilities are living for 64 years, and so on. So you can see that the life expectancy is increasing and is on the rise. What I always